Even though the NFL season just began, it looks like there might be great opportunities for some teams to trade. It's too early for most of the teams to hit the panic button just yet, but some early trades might help certain teams fill the holes in their rosters. Let's get into 6 trades that should definitely happen and why in this video. First up, Las Vegas Raiders get the 2023 6th-round pick in return for edge Clelin Ferrell from the Cleveland Browns. The Raiders are currently sitting at 0-2. Their collapse against the Arizona Cardinals in the second half left everyone disappointed and shocked. If they trade Clelin Ferrell, it won't really impact the team's record. So why doesn't Ferrell leaving make a difference? Ferrell doesn't really do much when you think about defense as a whole. The Clemson footballer has only been responsible for 27% of the defensive snaps this whole season. Plus, he's only logged 1 tackle and just 1 quarterback pressure. Based on his performance so far, it doesn't look like Ferrell might be worth a big return. But here's the catch. The Raiders could get something worthwhile that they need if they trade him, since Ferrell is going to be a free agent soon anyway. The Cleveland Browns might end up being interested in Clelin Ferrell, especially since they've had their own collapse this season. They lost a 13-point lead. Their coverage kind of failed them, and the New York Jets just pounced on this weakness. Clowney ended the game in a walking boot, and it looks like he'll be missing week 3. Cleveland might become desperate to find someone to replace him. Here's where Ferrell could make a great contribution and could complement Myles Garrett pretty well. After all, he did have 4.5 sacks as a rookie. It looks like both teams could benefit if this trade happened right now. Now, let's move on to a trade that could help the Baltimore Ravens in salvaging their defense. It was a shock when the Ravens' defense just collapsed in week 2. They started off extremely well, and we all had our hopes up. I mean, a 35-14 lead is no joke. Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins quarterback, ended up finishing with 469 passing yards, 2 interceptions, and 6 touchdowns. They've had too many torn ACLs in the past few seasons. The Ravens don't really have time to explore their options right now, but the best decision to make would be to bring in a starting caliber corner like Sidney Jones IV. He hasn't had the most playing time out of all players from the Seattle Seahawks, but his stats are pretty good. He played 12 defensive snaps in just the first week, and he even started 11 games in the 2021 season. His opposing passer rating is also 84.3. It looks like he'd be a perfect fit for the Ravens, who are trying to strengthen their depth in the secondary. Let's also take a look at some numbers in this trade. In return, the Seahawks would get the 2023 5th-round pick, which seems like a pretty good deal. Jones currently has a $3.6 million deal with them. If they don't contend, moving the salary seems like the best move. The Ravens also have $4.7 million in cap space, so it could all work out perfectly if the trade happens right now. Next, the Rams could trade Burgess for D'Ernest Johnson from the Browns. The Browns could have easily handled the New York Jets on Sunday, but Nick Chubb stopped short on the last scoring drive. If he didn't walk into the end zone and stopped short, he would have had a 1st and goal and the Jets out of timeouts. The game would have been over with a couple of kneel downs. The Rams could use a runner like D'Ernest Johnson. Clearly, the Browns aren't fully utilizing his potential. He currently has a deal worth $1.2 million, and he racked up 534 rushing yards on 5.3 per carry just last season. Everything falls into place really flawlessly if you think about it. On one hand, the Los Angeles Rams really need a runner like D'Ernest Johnson. They're averaging only 2.7 yards per carrying, and Johnson could help them up their game. Plus, Darrell Henderson Jr. and Johnson could complement each other, considering the former has averaged 4.1 yards per rush. The Rams, of course, have the option of trading draft capital, but they could backflip Terrell Burgess instead. Even though he might not fix the internal issues that Cleveland Browns has in terms of communication, he could be helpful in coordinating a more organized defense, with the help of Joe Woods, of course. Next, a trade between the Chicago Bears and the Cincinnati Bengals could be beneficial. The Bears took a famous flyer in 2021, Alex Leatherwood. The Raiders called him a first-round disappointment, and things really weren't looking good for him. Sadly, this didn't change when he came to the Bears, because they just put him on a non-football illness list just a few days ago. This means that Leatherwood's going to be missing at least 4 games, if not more. Even though the Raiders cut Leatherwood off, it looks like the Bears are hoping to make him a permanent part of their team, which is exactly why they've re-signed Michael Schofield to the practice squad. This is a short-term solution, but something that could be good for them in the long run is trading Schofield to the Cincinnati Bengals. You must be wondering, what good is that for any of the teams? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The Bengals, also the defending AFC champions, are falling behind because their offensive line is a huge question mark right now. They're at 0-2 just at the beginning of the season, and if they improve their offense, things could start looking up for them pretty quickly. The team signed some big names last year to improve, but that hasn't happened yet. The future looks kind of bleak, especially when you look at how QB Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times. Cincinnati is constantly shuffling its offensive line, and Schofield might be a good choice for them right now. Even though he's not a high-end starter, he's experienced because he plays guard and tackle. On the other hand, Chicago could use the the Bengals' 2023 sixth-round pick, who can take Leatherwood's place until he's ready to return. Moving on to a possible trade between the Colts and the Giants. Everyone thought that the Indianapolis Colts could be contenders in 2022. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the start they hoped for because it looks like QB Ryan has one of the most underwhelming receiving corps in the league. They suffered an embarrassing loss at the hands of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it looks like they might need some help. Matt Ryan was 16 of 30 yards and had 3 interceptions. Only Ashton Dulin and running back Nyheim Hines were able to top 30 receiving yards. We don't know about you, but that's not what a contending team should be looking like right now. If they still want to be contenders, though, it looks like Indiana needs some help ASAP. If they trade for the Giants wideout Slayton, they could help their depth very much. Plus, Slayton and the Giants look like they don't work well together anymore. He only played like 4 offensive snaps in the 2022 season so far. In the 2019 and 2020 seasons, Slayton had almost 1,500 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. Indiana could be the team to bring out his talent again. So what could the Jets get for Slayton? They don't really have a lot of trade leverage, so they're not getting a large return for Slayton. $900,000 isn't bad for a pass catcher like him, and the Colts should definitely be taking advantage of this. The 2023 7th-round pick and 2024 6th-round pick don't sound bad either. Finally, the 49ers and Steelers. In this trade, the 49ers would get Mason Rudolph, while the Steelers could get the 2023 5th-round pick. The 49ers proved that they're not messing around when they destroyed the Seahawks in Week 2. The win was needed, but it ended up costing San Francisco their star quarterback, Trey Lance. Lance suffered an ankle injury, and unfortunately, he's not coming back this season. Their coach, Kyle Shanahan, told reporters that even though he was happy about the win, the locker room afterward was a little somber. Because they're such a great team, they already have a starting caliber quarterback as a replacement in Jimmy Garoppolo. After they restructured, they kept him around for the 2022 season, and at the time, it was a great decision. However, the San Fran 49ers need a backup, and who's a better backup than a veteran like Mason Rudolph? Right now, they only have Brock Purdy as a backup. The Steelers' backup, Mason Rudolph, could actually be really good for them. He has 10 starts and a 5-4-1 record. If Garoppolo ends up having to step back, Rudolph would definitely be a better option than Purdy. Even though this would be an ideal situation for the 49ers, we don't know if it's the best option for the Steelers to let go of Rudolph. If they move him, though, they could save a lot of money. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think any of these trades are going to happen anytime soon? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.